So I do want to do a recap of what we went over last week. Okay? We talked about relationships, and this is every kind of relationship. What does a relationship take, Ethan? A relationship takes work. Yes! Yes, I will do that. A relationship takes work, right? Everything you want in life that is worth having takes work. Why should a good relationship be any different? Right? So relationships take work. Then we talked about love. How many kinds of love are there? Amber.
2 kinds.
Okay. Name one of the kinds of loves.
Compassionate love.
My girl, she was paying attention.
It was real good.
Kelly, if the one kind is passionate, what's the other one? It rhymes with it.
You just gave the answer.
Yes, there you go. So you have passionate love and you have compassionate love. Passionate love generally happens in a romantic relationship where you see him, you see her, and oh my gosh, that's the cutest thing that you've ever seen, and they can't do anything to irritate you, and sometimes that happens when you're way too young for it, and that's why it's called just a passionate love, because it's just like everything else in youth. It's fleeting. It comes and goes. On average, the age for passionate love is about 6 months to 2 years. When you look at people in good, solid relationships, what they're experiencing is called compassionate love. Compassionate love is where you now have a shared empathy with that person. You feel each other. Compassionate love is what a husband and wife who've been married a few years and they're comfortable in their marriage, they have with each other. Siblings have compassionate love. When you have a good friend that you've known for years, you have compassionate love with them. You understand each other. Their cares and worries become your cares and worries, and their happiness and joy becomes your happiness and joy. It's based on a solid foundation of loving one another. That's the kind of love Christ talks about when he talks about loving your neighbor as you love yourself.
Amen.
Right? At the root of that is what? Empathy. The only way you can love someone as you love yourself is if you can empathize with them. So if you take nothing else, okay, take this, that the day you really empathize with someone and their joy makes you happy and their sadness makes you sad, you have discovered the ultimate love. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't discover that until they have their first child, because that doesn't take any work. That is passion, compassion, everything wrapped into one. The way God has created the heart of a mother, the heart of a father. When your child cries, you want to cry. When your child smiles and is happy, you want to be happy. But it is possible to have that in your other relationships. It just takes work. It's just a little bit of work. And your desire to want to have that kind of a relationship with someone. When you share love with people, how many people here manage some kind of monetary financial account? Some kind. It can be your bank account, it can be your allowance, it can be your Christmas account. How many people here? Literally, everybody should be raising their hands, because everybody here is monitoring some kind of money comes in, money goes out, right?
Yes.
So let's say, for example, Rihanna, you go shopping, right? Mom has given you $20 to spend. How much can you spend? Speak up.
20.
Why can't you spend more than 20? Okay. How, in what situation would you be able to spend more than 20? If you get more money, right? It's pretty common sense, right? That's the same idea with love. It is so elementary. Why do we understand it? Why? Rihanna, who just walked in, she understands that if I don't have it in my pocket, I can't spend it. So I need to get a deposit of it, an additional deposit of it. Well, the same idea applies to love in a relationship, right? Because you can only withdraw as much as you're depositing.
That's good.
Only as much much love as I give to my husband, as much as I fuel our relationship and the love we share for each other, that's how much he's going to be able to give back. And if I don't make a deposit, at some point, he's going to start going into bankruptcy. Same idea, same exact idea as you have with money, it applies with love. If you want someone to treat you kindly and love on you, what do you have to do? Come on. Treat them kindly and love on them, right? What if it's someone who's really mean to you?
That's right.
Love them with kindness. Yes, because what did Christ say? It is so much harder, right? But what he said was, it's easy for you to love people who love you. It's easy for me to love my husband and my son. It's hard for me to pray for those who persecute me and who are mean to me and who don't like me, right? Or it can just be someone who's a rival. It doesn't necessarily have to be that kind of a negative feeling where they hate you. It can be a rival, it can be someone at school, it can be anybody, right? But always understand that when you love someone, you negate that negative foundation on which your relationship can be built with that person. And even if it's somebody you don't even care to have a relationship with, right? Bring that balance up to a 0 in your bank account. Don't walk away with a withdrawn account. Do you understand what I mean by that? What do you think I mean by that, Nadia? There's no wrong answers. I'll guide you. But what do you think? Don't walk away from someone leaving their account on the negative, on withdrawal. What does that mean?
Like don't walk away from someone who doesn't really have anything in their bank account, right? They need something.
Let me rephrase the question. You're answering it correctly, but that's not the question I meant to ask. So I'm going to rephrase the question. If I'm in a relationship with Joe Schmo, and what I mean by a relationship, it means I just know them. So anytime you get to know somebody, automatically some kind of a relationship forms, right? But I don't necessarily care to have a relationship with them. They're a completely different person than I am. We have nothing in common, right? And I want to leave that relationship. But the last interaction we had was negative, right? So his love account towards me right now is withdrawn. But I'm done with that person. I don't even want to talk to them, right? What do I need to do before I sever that relationship?
Apologize, or you can
Right? Because what's that gonna, exactly, what's that gonna do? It's gonna zero out your account. Okay, at that point, you don't have to make an additional deposit. You can just walk away and say, okay, I'm closing my account. I'm done. Like a credit card. You wouldn't just close an account with a balance on it, right? If you just look at it from that perspective. Go ahead.
Sorry, the scripture popped into my head where it says, "Owe no man anything but to love him." So when the account is at a negative, you owe that person some love just because of who Christ is and what Christ has already done.
Amen. Did everybody hear that? That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Don't walk away from anybody owing them love. Bring their balance to a 0, and then you can walk away. Another thing we talked about last week was communication. And we had a whole portion about communication, but I'm not going to revamp everything. All I'm going to say is communication is the key to any relationship. Any kind of relationship you have, it's based on communication. And primarily, actually, most of communication is nonverbal. So even if you think just because you're not talking to somebody, let's say like for me at work, I'll be walking up and down the hallway, I've been working there for 6 years, and there's this guy that we just kind of walk by each other, right? We have a relationship. We work in the same building, even though we've never talked. But we still communicate every time we walk by each other. And the fact that, let's say, and this is just an imaginary guy, let's say I don't even want to talk to them, right? As I walk by him, I put my head down and I don't look at him and I walk by. I'm still communicating. That is still communication. So it's not limited to verbal. It's not limited into eye contact or a gesture. The absence of any of that is communication of itself. It's important for you to understand communication because part of giving love, most of giving love, is in communication. But the lack of communication is one of the ways you can hurt the people you love, because by withholding that communication, you're withholding love, even when you don't realize doing it. I learned that the hard way. For me, when I'm upset with someone, in my mind, you're deleted. And that's something, it's been a long time that I've tried to work on. I won't communicate with them. And that's something, I was more so that way in the past. It's something that I'm trying to work on right now. But people have different strongholds. And it's like any kind of 12-step program. The first step in wanting to fix your problem is recognizing you have a problem, right? So, the absence of communication when you're in a loving relationship with someone can be one of the most hurtful things you can do to them. So don't do that. If you really care about a relationship, don't shut out the person, especially in marriages. This is 10 times more important in a marriage relationship because God ordains a marriage and He says, two became one. So when you shut the other person out, you are literally going against God's word. And that's something that, again, took me a long time to learn, and I'd like to think I've come a very long way, that even when I'm upset, I'm like, I love you. Humble pie doesn't taste good, but everybody needs to learn to eat it once in a while. It's good for you. Doesn't taste good. Doesn't taste good. So, the 5 love languages, how are we going to do this? We're going to learn what our personal love language is. Most people have a primary and a secondary love language. We're going to briefly talk about what each of the love languages are. We're going to take a quiz today. And if we have time, we'll talk about different people's love languages.
Sounds
Does
good.
that sound good? Okay. So as you see up there are 5 love languages. Words of affirmation. What does that mean, Eva?
It means that it's words that make you feel it's I don't know how to say it.
Put it in your own words. What does it mean to Neva? What does words of affirmation mean to Neva?
So to me, words of affirmation are people telling me that they love me or telling me things that uplift me, that make me feel good.
Okay. Words of affirmation can be words that encourage you, words that inspire you, words that uplift you, words that just make you feel better, words that validate you. Affirmation, validation, right? Words that say what you're doing is good. I appreciate that. Quality time. What does that mean to you, Kelly? Can everybody hear Kelly? Was everybody able to hear Neva? Okay. No, I'm only asking because I'm wondering if we need, I don't want to make everyone sound off, but if we need a mic. Okay. Okay, so can you repeat? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but can you sound off just a little?
Are you going to say it louder?
Yes.
So quality time is spending time with somebody.
Just any time with that person, or does it have to be any specific kind of time?
Depends on the person.
Bingo! That's exactly what it is. So quality time means spending the kind of time that for that person means quality time. For somebody, quality time might be let's go to the movies. For somebody, quality time might be let's build something together. For someone, quality time might be let's just go for a drive and hold hands. Let's just cuddle. Guys love that, don't they? So it all depends on what it is. What does the quality mean to that person? Okay? So that's the second love language. What's the third love language? And they're not in an order, so you can just pick one up there.
Acts of service.
Acts of service. What does it mean when we say acts of service? Forrest, what does acts of service mean to you?
Doing something for someone without necessarily expecting something in return.
Exactly. Doing something that you're giving service to that person. And generally it's not because they ask you to do it, it's because that's something you want to do for them. Acts of service should also be like quality time. What does service mean to that person? So let's say if Tony likes, I'm just going to throw something out there. If Tony likes vacuumed floor, but I don't really care if the floor is vacuumed or not. And so he vacuums the floor and I come home and says, look honey, I vacuumed the floor for you. Is that really an act of service for me? Let's say I like cold water and I come home and he says, look honey, I made sure there's cold water in the refrigerator for you. Is that an act of service? Because that's what I want, right? So it goes back to, last week we talked about the golden rule and the platinum rule. Golden rule, who knows golden rule? What's the golden rule, Aisha? Have you heard of it? Okay, so the golden rule is, your name?
Jalen.
Jalen? Okay, Jalen, do you know what the golden rule is? Okay, Nadia?
Do unto others as you want them to do unto you.
Yes, treat others like you want to be treated, right? That's the golden rule. What is the platinum rule? Jalen, you're smiling. Do you know what the platinum rule is? Okay. Oh, should drop you. Robert, what's the platinum rule?
Just love others as the way you like to be loved.
As they want to be.
Sorry.
Yes.
Love them as they would like to be loved.
Love them, treat them as they want to be loved and treated, right? So when we go over these different languages, always remember the platinum rule. Quality time, it's what it is to them. Acts of service, it's what it is to that person. What's another love language that's up there? Pastor Tony.
Physical touch.
Physical touch. Okay. Again, we go back to the platinum rule, right? Physical touch, a lot of times when I sit in these classes or when we talk about it, people start giggling when you say physical touch. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, how old is everybody? It does not mean adult physical touch. It is not limited to adult physical touch. Okay? It doesn't mean adult intimacy as God intended between a husband and wife. Okay? That's not what we're talking about necessarily. Physical touch can be, and a lot of times you'll see like at restaurants, there was a study done that waitresses who during, like at the time they were taking orders and stuff, would just talk to people and say, hi, can I help you? They get more tips. A study was done that raises the amount of tips they get. Physical touch for humans is very, very important. It is a primal need that humans have. Studies were done back when people thought children, babies, didn't have emotions. Studies were done, and that's how they found out. That's how they found out how important physical touch is, because there was a mindset about a century or so ago that thought that babies didn't have personalities, didn't have emotions, and they didn't need love. And so they would be left in their cribs for extended periods of time. That, and then years later when they went back and checked, that did very serious physical and mental damage. So physical touch is a primal need that we have. And we're talking about just, you know, putting the hand on somebody, or, you know, if you come home, you know, you're tired or whatever, and mom hugs you, or, you know, as children even, when we're little and we have a little boo-boo and mommy kisses it or something, you know, or if you're afraid, or if you know, maybe mommy doesn't kiss your boo-boo. If you're afraid and mom hugs you, or daddy hugs you, or someone's there, you know, if your older sibling puts their hand around you, that is physical touch. It doesn't necessarily mean the physical touch of the romantic kind, okay? And I think there's one left. Receiving gifts. That does not make someone materialistic, guys. Receiving gifts does not mean go buy me a Gucci bag every time I throw a tantrum. So I wouldn't turn it down, although I prefer Louis Vuitton, my love, if you're gonna go. But gifts can be little things. I learned that from a long argument with somebody, and my little brother's actually the one, Todd's the one who told me about that, because every time I would get mad at him and I would feel guilty afterwards, I would buy him something. Or I would take him to dinner, or I would give him something, because I didn't know how else to make things better, because I didn't want to talk it over. And so I was like, okay, you know, throwing money at people is not nice. It's actually very condescending. So it can be your love language, giving and getting gifts, but be mindful not to make the mistake that I made and try and make that a substitute for an apology. Okay? It's not. Giving gifts can be something as simple as, you know, like something Tony, before we had the little man and we had time to focus on each other more and we weren't so tired, Pastor Tony would pack my lunch at night, my lunch for work the night before. Like I would be tired, I would go to bed and I would wake up in the morning and my lunch was packed. Oh my goodness. That was like the best thing to me, you know? So gifts doesn't have to be materialistic things. That actually could kind of fall both into acts of service as well, but because it's something that he was physically putting together for me to take, I always categorize that as gifts. So if the person with whom you're in a relationship with, if one of their languages is gift, then those are some things you can do for them. You can make them food. You can take a piece of paper and write a nice little card for them. Bake cookies and feed them. See, that's one of the ways.
Yes.
I tend to feed people. Yes. Feeding people.
Amen.
Everyone here likes donuts.
In the name of Jesus.
Yes, and we love it when the Largels come over with some hot Krispy Kreme. Or, I come home after a long day of work and on the counter there's like some nookies, I call them. Neva makes yummy cookies for me, so.
Neva cookies.
So we love that, But that's another way to show your love language. Okay. Does everybody have kind of an idea what they think their love language is? Okay. What we're going to do is take a quiz now. And the quiz basically, all you're going to do is, it's very self-explanatory. It's going to help you discover what your love language is. It's not a pass and fail quiz. It's one of those self-discovery quizzes. Okay? So when you add up all the numbers at the bottom, is everyone getting 30?
Yes.
You know why? Because I just noticed I got 28. I'm like, dang, I'm missing two.
I'm missing one.
It's okay though. You know what? Unless you have some that are very close to each other, this generally gives you what your love languages are. Okay. So we're gonna decipher what these numbers mean. How many people have as their, so we're trying to figure out what's their primary and secondary love language, okay? Depending on what the numbers are. So, how many people have A as the highest number? I already knew it was going to be you. Anybody else? Okay, so anyway, your love language is words of affirmation.
Wow.
How many people have B as their highest number? That is quality time.
Really? I know. Well, that's it. All I needed to know.
How many have C as their receiving gifts? I'm shocked. You knew that too, yes.
I literally got one. Only one.
That makes so much sense because I know when it's Christmas or whatever, you will go out of your way to make sure everybody gets a gift. He will make sure, no matter what, that everybody gets a gift, which I think is just absolutely adorable. How many people have D as their highest one? I am not surprised. That's acts of service. We're the slave drivers. Because we work hard, dang it, and we expect you to work hard. I am so honored that we're in the same category. Because I think Tony is a very hardworking person, so that's pretty cool. And how many people have E as their highest one? Okay, that's pretty cool. So, what do you guys think? What does this kind of sound close to what you thought it would? Pretty much. What was your primary? Maisha, what was your primary? Quality time. So is that something that you enjoy, like for you, if someone spends time with you? Okay. Rihanna, what was yours? Also quality time? That's really cool. So, Maisha, what was your secondary? A. Really? Okay. And Rihanna, what was your? D. Acts of service. Okay. So, what I would like for everybody to do is kind of pair up. This is homework, not here right now. And as you recognize one another's love languages, right? Take the next week, between now and next week, and make an effort every day to give whoever that person, and pick someone with whom you will be at least daily contact with. So, like, I would say between the three of you, you guys, first, I will give you a quiz for Aisha. I think it would be much better if you paired up with Aisha, because, you know, if you're already in a relationship, in a spousal type of relationship, I really would prefer if you guys focused on those relationships. Now, I'm sorry? Yes, I will give you a quiz to take. And Amber, are you going to be uploading the video?
Sure.
Is that something we've been doing, or?
It's on YouTube, but Dad keeps it private until he.
I mean, she can look at it if she wants to. But I think it's really important that we kind of try it out. Starting next week, I want to actually dive deep into each one of the acts of service. Today, we went over all of them because it's important for you to have a basic understanding of it. But next week, we're going to really dive deep into words of affirmation. So, that's something to look forward to, right? Does anybody have any question about their responses that they got about themselves?
What if he had a tie?
You have a tie?
Yeah, for my second place, I got active service and physical touch with all 6.
Well, you're multilingual.
Wow.
Yes. did you even out at 30 at the bottom though?
Yeah.
You did?
I got it far.
Yeah, I gotta go back and check to see what I missed on.
Yeah.
That's the extent of what I had for today.